It's Wednesday night. It's a volleyball night in Pittsburgh. Got the Pitt Louisville, or if you want to, be part of the Resistance Louisville, the Pitt Louisville match over on the TV. Number 1 Pitt against number 3 Louisville. They're in the second set, or the third set, excuse me. With Pitt winning the first set, Louisville winning the second set. Pitt's leading right now as I speak 15-9, but given that I'm watching a stream which has a delay, and you're watching a stream which has its own delay, chances are the score might be very different, and actually it's already 15-10. Louisville just scored. We're not going to make this play-by-play on Pitt volleyball, but we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on it. This is Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving. I wonder if I have my the right microphone setting here. Yep, I do. So hopefully you can hear me. Everybody's tuning in for this week's live Panther-Lair Show. You might notice I don't have any headphones. And that's because we're not going to be welcoming any guests into the show. Jim is off tonight. Jim is he's not on assignment. He's got something else to do. So it's just me tonight. And I hope you guys will come through because I would like to have a little bit of a conversation with you. It's like the old days where I just sat here and talked, and you guys will be in the comment section, the chat section with your comments and questions. So jump into it. Get in the chats over there on the right and post your comment, post your question. Oh, man. Josh Newark, you're hitting me right in the feels. Josh says it's the night before Thanksgiving. It requires a shot. I thought about it. I really did. I thought, you know what? It's the night before Thanksgiving, the biggest party night of the year. Maybe I should maybe we should get the shot. Maybe we should have a Wednesday night shot. But I decided against it because the reality is when we get done here, I got a bunch of work I want to get done, a couple articles I want to write, and some other things to minimize the amount of work there is to do tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I would rather not have a lot of work to do on Thanksgiving. I would rather be able to just relax, sit around, watch football, eat turkey, and not have to worry about getting articles written or doing things like that. So I thought about it, but I want to try and get a bunch of work done when we get done here tonight, Josh. So I'm not going to do the shot. But then again, I mean, if I'm going to write about, Konate Mumfield's journey at Pitt and what the options are to replace Damian Dunn, maybe a shot of Maker's Mark is in order. But we'll do that at the end, after the show, not here at the beginning. If I do the shot at the beginning of the show, I might be tired by the time we get to the end. We got a lot to talk about tonight, of course, as always. There's always a lot of topics, and certainly tonight is no exception. Pitt football headed toward the regular season finale at Boston College on Saturday. Pitt basketball dealing with the loss of a veteran guard in Damian Dunn, who was pretty good through the first 7 games, or at least the first 6 when he was healthy, and certainly the first 5 when he played a lot. He was in foul trouble in game number 6. Damian Dunn's a big piece, big part of this team on both ends of the court. He's not the guy they, most have to avoid. Excuse me. He wasn't, I wouldn't put him at the top of the list of can't lose players, but certainly a guy it'd be better to have than not. And they're not going to have him for the next 6 weeks. So that's going to be it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's going to present some interesting opportunities. We'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about this Boston College game tonight. We'll talk about where the football team stands heading into that game and get all our thoughts. And of course, we'll keep an eye on this volleyball match as it's going on. I keep hearing TV say that Louisville's got the momentum, but Pitt is up 5 points in the third set at 17-12. Panthers looking to get a huge road win at number 3 Louisville. We'll keep an eye on that. We're also keeping an eye on all the Black Friday sales that are out there, and there's a huge one going on with our friends at Backshore Apparel. Backshore.com has some great stuff. You've heard me talk about it before. They've revamped the trucker hat. They've got a modern twist on a classic favorite with an innovative laser cut hat that's crafted from moisture wicking fabrics, ensuring that they are lightweight and breathable. You can experience the ultimate durability and unique floating feature when you select a Backshore hat. In addition to the hats, Backshore Beach Tech hoodies and t-shirts are the perfect combination of style and functionality. They're crafted with flex fabrics to keep you cool and thinking of warmer weather, and the breathable material ensures you feel fresh all day long, while the stain-resistant protection keeps your hoodie looking new for longer. And let's not forget how incredibly soft they are. Backshore is run by Mike. He's a 2000 Pitt grad. He's an Alliance 412 member. He's a member at Panther-Lair.com. Huge fan of the show, huge supporter of the show, and huge fan of Pitt. And he's the Backshore Apparel founder. And right now he's giving Panther-Lair members early access to the Black Friday sale. Use the promo code BF20, BF20 for 20% off site-wide at backshoreapparel.com. Promo code BF20 at backshoreapparel.com. All right, let's dive into a couple things. A few thoughts off the top of my head. All right, like I said, if you're just tuning in, Jim's not with us tonight. He's got the night off, so it's just me. So hopefully you guys come through with some good comments and questions to get the conversation going. You want to make sure we read your comment or answer your question. As always, you can be a super chatter, and we'll be sure to get it in. Pitt's going to Boston College. Final game of the regular season, trying to break a 4-game losing streak, trying to finish the season at 8-4 as opposed to 7-5. And, earlier this week, Tuesday, I guess that was yesterday, I had a Morning Pitt episode where I talked about kind of the 5 things Pitt needs to do to beat Boston College. I think a headline was like 5 things for Pitt to do to win a crucial game. And some people said, like, is this really a crucial game? Is it really that big of a game? Who cares about the difference between 7-5 and 8-4? Who cares about the difference between going to the Pinstripe Bowl and, the Nashville or Birmingham Bowl or something like that? Is it really all that big? And I actually think it is a big deal. I think it is really important to win this game. I don't think we can overstate the significance of it. It's not going to change anything that happened in the last 4 games. The Boston College, whatever happens on Saturday is not going to change what happened in the last 4 games. What it can do, though, is give you an 8-4 record. And I think that's important. I think there's a pretty sizable gap in terms of perception between a 7-5 record and an 8-4 record. And even more so, I think that 8-4 record gives you an opportunity to win a 9th game, to finish 9-4 with a win in a bowl game. And I think that's important. I really do. Like, I think about the difference between, 2022 and 2019, right? Both years they finished with a win in a bowl game. So there's not that. There's no like last game bias of affecting the offseason. But both teams won their bowl game, 2022 and 2019. But the 2019 team went 7-5, won the bowl to get to 8-5. 2022 team went 8-4, won the bowl to get to 9-4. And I think when we look back on those two teams, I think we have very different reactions and thoughts on those two teams. Like if I said to you 2019 versus 22, you would probably jump to 22 pretty quickly. Now, part of that is who they beat in the bowl. Right, the 2022 team beat UCLA. 2019 beat Eastern Michigan. But again, you finish 8-4 as opposed to 7-5. You give yourself a chance to get a more prominent opponent. You get a Big Ten team in the Pinstripe Bowl, and that's big. I don't know if they would go back to the Sun Bowl again. I mean, they were just there in 22. They were just there in 18. El Paso probably wants Pitt to stay away for a little while. Pitt probably wants to stay away from El Paso for a little while. But I think that's important. I think it's important to finish 8-4. I think it's important to give yourself a chance at 9-4. I think it's important to win 9+ games 3 out of the last 4 seasons for the first time in like 40 years. I think you have a chance to, if you beat Boston College, you have a chance to finish on a 2-game losing streak or a 2-game winning streak. And more importantly, you have a chance to break this losing streak. And I think that's important. I think it's important for the team. I think it's important for the players. I think it's important for the fans to not go into the offseason, obviously, on a 5-game losing streak, pre-bowl. To not have this losing streak carry over. I do think that's important. I think it's important to break that streak and get a little bit of positive momentum. And look, who knows what kind of personnel they're going to have available up there. Who knows what the offensive line is going to look like? Who knows what the quarterback situation is going to look like? I'm guessing Eli Holstein's not going to be available just because the dude was on crutches and had his foot in a boot last Saturday. I don't think his injury was as serious as it looked at the time, but you were on crutches in a boot a week ago. I'm pretty sure you're going to be in rough shape for this game. And so I'm guessing Eli Holstein won't play. I don't know. But, I think if you go into it with who knows what offensive line, with your backup quarterback and all this stuff, I think you have a chance for a good, heartwarming story, to finish the season with a little bit of positivity. And so I think there's a big opportunity there. And I think Boston College is a beatable team. They like to run the ball a lot. They've run the ball more than 400 times. I think they're close to double run versus pass attempts so far this season. And historically, that has played well into Pitt's defense. Now, it didn't really work out against Louisville last Saturday when the Cardinals ran the ball like crazy and Pitt Pitt was unable to stop them. But hopefully that game was a bit of a wake-up call. I gave some of those stats earlier this week about the yards after contact. I think Louisville had 140 yards after contact and 19 or 20 some missed tackles. Just poor play and poor effort, poor focus, and the kind of thing you just can't do. And typically they haven't done. That hasn't been that Pitt team. That hasn't been Pitt under Panther-Lair. Sometimes they've had a few moments where they've done it, but largely that hasn't been how they've played. That can't be how they play on Saturday against Boston College. On Saturday against Boston College, they need to make their tackles. Boston College is going to run it a lot. Pitt needs to stop the run like they've done for 10 years. It's been the point of emphasis. It's been the focus is to stop the run. Well, that's what they're going to need to do on Saturday if they want to win this game. So it's a winnable game. I think there's a lot riding on this game. There's a lot that they can gain from winning this game. and Pitt just won set number 3, 25-20. So Panthers with a chance to win this huge match on the road at number 3 Louisville if they can win set 4 here. It's pretty big. It's an exciting one to watch. So that's some football thoughts. Basketball-wise, and I'm just sort of setting the table here, and we'll just take the conversation wherever you guys want to go with it. Basketball-wise, the loss of Damian Dunn is huge. There's no question about it. But you don't have to look very far to find some upsides. Number one upside is it wasn't Jalen Lowe or Ishmael Leggett. And you wouldn't say, wow, I'm glad it was Damian Dunn. You wouldn't want to lose him. You don't want to lose him for any amount of time. They're not a better team without him. But Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett are the two most important players on the team. So you've got that. More importantly, these next 6 weeks are going to be such a great opportunity for Brandon Cummings and Amsal Delilich to get better, to get minutes, to develop, to grow on the court, and really figure it out. Really figure it out. There's the old cliche that by the time you get to January, freshmen are no longer freshmen. I think some of that depends on how many minutes those freshmen are playing. By January, Delilich and Cummings will have, for 6 weeks, played big minutes because they're going to get big minutes. They played big minutes on Sunday against Wisconsin after Dunn got hurt. Cummings has been seeing minutes. They went up against Wisconsin. Delilich has seen his minutes steadily increase. And Jeff Capel told us today, and I thought this was really interesting, said that Delilich was going to get more minutes against Wisconsin. That was the plan even before Damian Dunn got hurt. His 16 minutes were not just a byproduct of Damian Dunn getting hurt. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And I followed up. I asked him, I'm like, so what do you mean by that? Was it just a matchup you liked? Or was it, just the continued progress of his minutes? And he said, well, it was two things, really. He said, one, there was a matchup that they felt good about. They felt like he would fit well in that game. And Capel said, number two, Delilich had a really good practice on Saturday between the two games, between the LSU game on Friday and the Wisconsin game on Sunday. He had a really good practice on Saturday and then looked really good in the walkthrough and shoot-around on Sunday morning before the game or whenever they had their shoot-around. And he said, so he earned more minutes, and independent of Damian Dunn getting hurt. And I thought that was interesting because this whole season has been watching. It's not the only thing we've done, but it's a big thing that we've done. Has been watching Amsal Delilich continue to grow, continue to evolve, continue to get more minutes, and continue to get on the court and contribute. And you're seeing, I think, game by game, step by step, he's getting better and better and closer to that sort of idealized version I had of him that I've certainly been trying to sell to you for a long time about how good he can be. And I think, maybe the first game you saw a little bit of a flash. And then the next time you saw a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. And now in his most minutes ever, 16 minutes, he scores 9 points, shoots 4 of 4 from the floor, and 1 of 1 from 3. He has an assist and a turnover and a rebound, and some moments that really made you go, wow. I asked Cam Corrin today. I was like, what has stood out to you about Amsal Delilich? And he was like, he just knows how to play. He just knows how to play basketball. He just understands the game. And I still flash back to the quote Jeff Capel had the first time Delilich played. There were a couple turnovers, and Jeff Capel said something to the effect of it was, we didn't handle some of his passes well because we're not used to seeing those passes. And that quote has really stuck with me because it's almost like he was saying, our guys have to get used to getting these kinds of passes. Like it's not a matter of Delilich catching up to us. It's us catching up to him. That was how I sort of took Jeff Capel's quote. And I don't think that's entirely what he was saying, but I think that was sort of the gist of it. That they're not used to guys who pass the way Delilich passes. And you saw it. He had the assist, his 1 assist out for the 3 was just a sick play, a sick pass. You have to have vision. You have to have ball control. I mean, it was all there. Drives to the hoop, his shot. I'm more convinced than ever that Amsal Delilich is going to be really, really, really good. Excuse me. Still got this cough. I can't help it. I'm more convinced than ever that he's going to be really good. And so his minutes were going to keep going up. He wasn't, it is not just because of Dunn being out. His minutes were going to keep going up. Now that Dunn is out, I think you're going to see a lot of Amsal Delilich. You're going to see a lot of Brandon Cummings, and you're going to see a lot of Zach Austin, and you're going to see a lot of all those guys, plus Ishmael Leggett and Jalen Lowe, and some combination 1 through 4 out there, or 1 through 3 with Austin and potentially Delilich, sometimes playing the 4, mixing in with Guillermo and Cam Corrin, who I've just collectively come to referring to as the centers, because that's kind of what they are. So big opportunity here with Dunn out for the next 6 weeks. Excuse me. Big opportunity for Delilich and Cummings. Big opportunity for Zach Austin, too. Jeff Capel said today he's not entirely sure. He hasn't decided yet who the 5th starter is going to be. And it was funny. He was asked, have you decided who your 5th starter is? And he said, nope. And that was it. So we had to press him a little bit, well, what are you considering? Do you like what Zach brings off the bench? And he actually said some interesting things about, the biggest decision the coaches have to make here about that 5th starter spot that Damian Dunn was occupying is, do they want to go with a more experienced player in the starting lineup and then bring a freshman off the bench, meaning either Delilich or Cummings, or do they want to put a freshman in the starting lineup and bring the more experienced player off the bench, which would mean Cummings or Delilich starts and Austin comes off the bench? I thought that was interesting because I hadn't really thought about it that way. I mean, it sort of seemed obvious to me that Austin would be the guy who would get the call, who would be the starter. It seemed obvious to me that, he would be the one. Because on Sunday when Dunn got hurt and they started, first of all, Austin was the guy who came in right off the bat. And then when they started the second half, when typically Jeff Capel goes back to his original starting lineup, Austin was on the court. So it was like, oh yeah, well, this is obvious. So it's going to be Zach Austin, but it seems like there's some real thought being given to it, trying to make the best decision for the team. And Jeff Capel said he might not decide until Friday. So when you look at this Ohio State game on Friday afternoon, Pitt going to Columbus, that's going to be one of the big storylines to watch is who starts. Ishmael Leggett's going to start. Jalen Lowe's going to start. Guillermo Diaz-Graham and Cam Corrin are going to start. But who starts with those guys? Who's the fifth starter in the middle there? Is it Austin? Is it Delalich? Is it Cummings? I'm guessing it's going to be Austin. I don't think it's the worst idea to go with Delalich or Cummings. And I'm not sure which one. I could make a case for both and then bring Austin off the bench as that experienced player and that spark that he's been. So interesting storyline developing there as Pitt heads into a huge stretch. They've already had 2 games. It's a 5-game stretch away from home. They had the LSU and Wisconsin games in the Greenbrier, tip-off in West Virginia, and now they're heading toward playing at Ohio State, playing at Mississippi State in the ACC SEC Challenge, and then at Virginia Tech in that weird orphan ACC game before they finish out the non-conference against Eastern Kentucky and Sam Houston. So a big stretch of 5 games here. You're going to dive right into it without Damian Dunn. And, big stretch of 5 games. They have the final 3 of those 5 coming up. They're going to go into it without Damian Dunn. Delalich and Cummings are going to be called upon to play a lot. And it's going to be interesting to watch. All right. Lots of comments and questions here. Let's see. Josh Newark says, were you surprised that Ben Sauls was not a Lou Groza finalist? Yeah and no. Let me bring up the finalist list here. So Sauls, initially, I thought, yeah, he would definitely be a finalist for the Lou Groza Awards. Lou Groza Award goes to the most, the top kicker in college. They picked a kid from Louisiana, a kid from Florida State, a kid from Kentucky. Why not Ben Sauls? Well, I mean, when you look at the stats, the kid from Florida State is, by the numbers, the best kicker in the country. He leads the country. He's made all 12 of his attempts. The NCAA ranks kickers, for field goal percentage, you have to have at least 1 field goal attempt per game. And so by that rationale, Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State is the top kicker in the country. He's 12 for 12. There's only one other kicker who's averaged at least 1 attempt per game who is perfect. That's a kid from Charlotte who's 11 of 11. The other kickers who made the cut, Louisiana and let me find the Kentucky kid. Alex Rayner from Kentucky is 15 of 16. He made the cut. And then Kenneth Almendares, I guess, from Louisiana, he's missed 2 kicks, but he has made 25. He's 25 of 27. He's made the most kicks of any kicker in the country. Ben Sauls, who's obviously been very good, has missed 3 kicks. And he's 17 of 20. That's very good, but you're not perfect like the Florida State kid. You don't have 1 miss like the Kentucky kid, and you haven't made 25 field goals like the Louisiana kid. So Sauls has been awesome. He was off to a great start. He's missed a few recently, and so I'm not really surprised that he's not a finalist. I think he is one of the best kickers in the country, but by the numbers this year, he's not really he's not really at that level. Let's see here. I don't know the answer to this next question right off the top of my head, so I'm just going to look up something real quick as we go. Josh Newark asks, was Eli Holstein injury prone in high school? I don't know. Looking at his Pitt bio as a 3-year starter, he threw for 7,000 yards. So I would say he didn't miss much time. His senior year, he threw for 2,100 yards and 22 touchdowns and ran for 500 yards. His junior year, he threw for 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns and ran for 500 yards and 14 touchdowns. So it doesn't seem like it. Over those 3 seasons, it seems like he was on the field a lot. So I would say injury prone is not necessarily something that we saw. I'm not really all that inclined to call guys injury prone anyway. It probably depends on the position they play and the style they play with. I don't necessarily think guys are fragile. I think quarterbacks who run a lot and take a lot of hits are probably going to be, find themselves getting hurt more because they're getting hit more. James Conner, it's funny when it's not really funny, but when James Conner was coming out at Pitt And going into the NFL, there was talking about concerns about, would NFL teams be concerned about him, with cancer? And I was like, well, he beat the cancer. The cancer's gone. I'd be more concerned about the fact that he was hurt every year of his college career. Like every year he missed games due to injury. Never mind cancer. Like that, you can do a test and find out that it's gone. But every year of his college career, he missed time with an injury. And I think that carried over to the NFL. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's fragile or injury prone. It just means he plays a position and in a style that lends itself to a lot of contact. And contact is sometimes going to hurt and cause some injuries. And so Eli Holstein, I don't necessarily know that I think of him as injury prone. I think he's a physical, big running quarterback, and he's going to take some shots. And as he gets older and more mature, he can, learn ways to avoid those shots, but it's also part of his game. It's part of his game. Pitt Tough Guy says, are you taking over or under? Pitt football loses 39 players from the current roster of 120, where 12 are redshirt seniors. Hint, 105 roster limit and transfers going out. So, if you're talking from the 120, which is scholarship and walk-ons together, they actually have 19 seniors who walked on senior day. That's walk-ons and scholarship guys. So if we're counting them, if you're going scholarship and walk-on, which if you're talking about the current roster for 120, that includes scholarships and walk-on players. If you're talking about both, then I think you have to take the over because you have 19 seniors who are gone. And then if you look at last year, Pitt had 19 scholarship transfers leave the program. 19 guys, 11 after the season, 8 more in the spring. And then I think there were a handful more walk-ons. So, without looking up the number of seniors last year, you probably had in the mid-20s of number of total players who left the program via transfer. So if you get around that area again, which seems plausible, I think 15 to 25 transfers out, probably 20, between walk-ons and scholarship guys, you're going to clear 40 departures from the roster. So I would take over on how many players from the current roster are gone or not returning for next season is probably the best way to say it, because there's the seniors who are out of eligibility. They're the guys who transfer after the season. Once this game on Saturday ends, once the transfer portal opens on Monday, I think it's Monday the 9th. Once the portal opens, guys who go into the portal then, and then the guys who go into the portal window in the spring, it'd probably clear 40, I would think. I mean, you're already halfway there just with seniors who walked on senior day. Benjamin Glazer says, Pat Narduzzi strikes me as a big fried turkey guy. Thoughts? I don't really think of Narduzzi as somebody who puts a lot of thought into how the turkey is prepared on Thanksgiving, because for all of Pat Narduzzi's professional life and before his professional life and, probably back into high school, Thanksgiving is always in the middle of football season. And so his focus on Thanksgiving, on the final Thursday in November, probably every year as long as he can remember, his focus has been on football. And very little of his focus has been on preparing a turkey. And so, this year, like, he might enjoy a fried turkey, but I don't know that he really has a strong preference, and he's probably not putting in much work as it relates to, preparing it himself. Anthony Tennyson wishes a happy Thanksgiving. Same to you, Tony. Same to you, Green. Says, I hope you and everybody else have a great Thanksgiving. Green says, can we save the season and beat Boston College to play Michigan in the Pinstripe Bowl? That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Look, hypotheticals are hard to decide, particularly a hypothetical about how you would feel. But how do you think you would feel? Wow, Louisville with a big mistake there. Just not playing well. Doesn't seem to have a lot of energy or intensity, at least on that point. Pitt's up 13-8 in the fourth set here. We're not rooting for Louisville to get the next point to make it 13-9, but we'll keep an eye on it just in case. Rachel Fairbanks with the serve as Pitt leads 13-8. We'll see what happens. Nope. Oh, nope. Pitt got the point. 14-8. What was I saying? Oh, so hypothetically, all right, let's say Pitt beats Boston College on Saturday and gets Michigan in the Pinstripe Bowl, just for poops and giggles, right? And let's say Pitt wins that game. So they finish 9-4, 7-0 start, 2-game winning streak to close the season, including a win over Michigan. Never mind that Michigan's down. It's Michigan. Michigan's Michigan. I have to think that the vibes would change pretty considerably. And then if you hold on to a few key guys through these portal windows, I have to think the vibes will be pretty good for next season. Don't you? It's hypothetical. It's impossible to predict how you're going to feel. Inevitably, Pitt is going to lose someone to the portal that you don't want them to lose. But they're going to hold on to a bunch of guys that you might assume they're going to lose if you are inclined to be negative about things. So I think, there's a chance for a very positive outcome and finish to this season. And maybe it involves Michigan in the Pinstripe Bowl. Maybe it doesn't, but we'll see. Voodoo IPA says, with the gluten issue, besides turkey, what will you eat tomorrow? We'll make gluten-free stuffing. We'll make gluten-free. I'm going to make some gluten-free pumpkin pies tomorrow. Looking forward to that. There's always mashed potatoes, bro. And you can get some gluten-free gravy out there. There's always vegetables. I mean, pile up the turkey, pile up the mashed potatoes, some GF stuffing, get some GF pumpkin pies. We'll be all right. Josh Newark says, what about Pitt Athletics are you most thankful for? And what in Pitt Athletics is the biggest turkey of the year? What am I most thankful for? I'm most thankful, honestly, I'm thankful for you guys who watch these live streams. Like sometimes I sit down and it amazes me that, we got 50 people online right now. There's 50 of you out there right now that want to sit there and listen to this. They're like, whatever else you're doing at 9:00 on a Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving, there's 50 people in this world who are like, I want to listen to Pitt talk. I want to hear what this guy has to say about Pitt. And you might have split screen, Panther-Lair Show on one screen, Pitt volleyball on the other, like I do. Or maybe you're just watching this, or maybe whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you're watching it later in the week, which I appreciate you as well. But I'm thankful for that. In terms of Pitt sports, I mean, this volleyball team, if you're not into it, I don't think you're trying or giving it a chance. There is everything to like about this Pitt volleyball team right now. Honestly, first of all, the sport. I think the sport is super accessible. It's not hard to figure out what's happening in volleyball. Hit the ball over the net. You get 3 times, and you got to get it over the net. You get to hit it 3 times, you got to get it over the net. It's not that hard. There's a few little rules, the libero and all that stuff. But when it ultimately comes down to it, hit the ball over the net. There's not much, there's not much arcane. So there's a low barrier to entry, and I also thought about this tonight. The great thing about volleyball is you have all these high impact moments of the big shot at the net. And so you get the serve, but then you get bump, set, and then here it comes. And then, whatever happens, and then it's bump, set, here it comes. The big moments, when they're coming, and you get this calm and then the storm, and calm and then the storm. And it's exciting because football, you don't know when the big collision is coming. You don't know when the big one-on-one matchup down the field between the great receiver and great corner is going to be tested. You don't know when those things are happening. You might have a great matchup between a pitcher and hitter in baseball or whatever it may be. In volleyball, pretty much every point, Olivia Babcock's going to fire a shot at the other team. Or Tori Stafford or Bree Kelly or one of these girls is going to go up for a huge shot, or they're going to go for a big block. And when these things are coming. And so you wait, and then what's going to happen? When the excitement is happening. So I think that's a pretty fun part of it. And then on top of it all, they're really good. You have the number 1 team in the country right now, Pitt fans. This should be the team you enjoy the most if you're looking for success. But that's just me. The turkey of the year in Pitt Athletics. Don't want to kick anyone when they're down, but I mean, Heather Light got fired, so that might be a turkey move. Green says the last few years, the 3rd best team in the ACC has been to the Gator Bowl. That's my best case scenario for Pitt. Do you think we have a chance if we go 8-4? I don't know. Some of it might depend on how many teams the ACC gets into the college football playoff. There's, seems like a pretty good chance of 2, outside shot at 3. If that happens, I think Pitt's, all the conference teams, you move up the pecking order of available bowl games every time your conference gets another team into the playoff, because now they're not available, right? So I don't know if Pitt's going to end up in the Gator Bowl. My guess, if they go 8-4, is they might get, the Mayo Bowl, or sick shot there. 19-11 Pitt's up. Mayo Bowl, Pinstripe Bowl, whatever it might be, maybe Gator Bowl. I don't know. It might depend on if Miami, SMU, and Clemson all make the playoffs, because if they do, that's going to open up, and Notre Dame. That's 4 potential ACC bowl slots that are unfilled, which creates greater opportunity for Pitt and Louisville, and so on down the list. So I would say it's a possibility. Yeah, your question, do I think they have a chance? Sure. Josh Newark says, I get the sense that Pat Narduzzi saying Eli Holstein isn't done for the year and isn't as hurt as last time screams to me Dews playing head games with the chin Bill O'Brien. Maybe. I don't know. I've given up trying to figure out Pat Narduzzi's smoke signals. And another, Pitt's just in control right here, 20-12. They're doing it all. Maybe I've given up on trying to figure out what, how Pat Narduzzi's brain works. I do believe him that maybe the injury wasn't as serious as it looked. Again, I've said this a few times. I think if Eli Holstein, if he was as hurt as it looked like he was hurt, he wouldn't have been back on the sideline on crutches. You know, I don't think you let a guy go on the sideline on crutches if he's really severely hurt. You never let him get out of the locker room. The fact that he came back, again, he was on crutches and in a boot, so it's questionable whether it was a good judgment to put him on the sideline at all. But the fact that he came back to the sideline, I think, is encouraging. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play this week, but I think it's encouraging. Josh Newark says, more likely to occur, Cade Bell to Oklahoma, Cade Bell to another team, Cade Bell comes back to Pitt. Out of those 3 scenarios, I would say the most likely is Cade Bell comes back to Pitt, is my thought. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. But, I'm not going to put odds on it or anything like that. Adam Vinchik asks, when do you expect the transfer portal activity to heat up? As guys go in, and so I think guys are able to go in at different times. If you have a coach leave, you can go into the portal. Some of the different leagues, the D2 or the FCS, can go in at different times. As far as Pitt's concerned, with Pitt's guys, they can go once the portal opens on December 9th. But once guys are in the portal, Pitt can start recruiting them and trying to land them, guys from other schools. So there's a little bit of activity there. There's a tight end from a D2 school that's going to come and visit Pitt in a couple of weeks. Pretty intriguing guy, but he was also one of the first guys to go in the portal, so he's getting a ton of interest just because of the scarcity on the market right now, since the portal's not open for the vast majority of players in D1 football. But he's an intriguing guy, and obviously interested enough to take a visit to Pitt. So keep an eye on that. Garrett Joe says, I think Amsal is going to break out during this stretch with Damian Dunn out. He's been improving each game in my view. And I also think Capel may start him. I think it's possible. I think there's your 3 possibilities. Your 3 possibilities for that extra starting spot are Amsal Delalich, Brandon Cummings, and Zach Austin. Cummings, you start if you want a 3 guard. I say if you want a 3 guard look, but they're basically using Delalich like a guard. There was a lineup they used on Sunday. Where is it? There was a lineup they used on Sunday. Jalen Lowe, Amsal Delalich, Zach Austin, Guillermo Diaz-Graham, Cam Corrin. That's a pretty unique lineup, and that's basically using Delalich as a guard, which I think is how they view him. So if you want 3 guards, you go with Delalich or Cummings. Delalich is older, but they're both freshmen. If you want the more experienced lineup, you go with Austin and bring one of those guys off the bench. I could make a case for all 3 scenarios, quite honestly. I could make a case for all 3. I'm guessing it'll be Austin, but I could make a case for all of them. Green says, will we beat Ohio State? West Virginia winning today sure boosted our resume. Yeah, West Virginia beat Gonzaga today, which was a huge win for Pitt's net rankings when those things eventually come around. That boosts West Virginia's resume, which certainly helps Pitt. And Pitt just put one right down the line. They're up 21-14. Outstanding play. Olivia Babcock is maybe the best overall athlete at Pitt right now. Let's see. Josh Newark says Zach Austin needs to be the sixth man, pure energy guy that's always going to be better than the opponent's sixth man. Yeah, it just my whole thing with that is like you just get into a point where you're playing the guys you're playing. Like, being the sixth man doesn't matter as much, I think, once the game really gets going. And the starting lineup doesn't matter as much once the game gets going. It becomes a matter of how many minutes guys are playing and who's on the court and when they're on the court. 22-15 for Pitt. Panthers 3 points away from beating number 3 Louisville on the road. They're 27-1. So, I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Pitt. Pitt is 27-1. It's really about, it's not as much about who starts and who's the sixth man. It's about who plays minutes and who plays in crunch time when it really matters. And that's what will be most relevant as we move forward. So it's going to be a big point of intrigue. I'm going to write articles about it. I did a whole thing about it today on the morning Pitt. So about who's going to be the starter, but ultimately it's going to be about the minute distribution and who plays. A. Hendy says, I wish Jorge was playing better. He'd be great to start at the 3. Lots of size on the court. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know where Jorge fits, particularly because you're seeing, Delilich, you're seeing Delilich and Cummings get all of these, all of this playing time, get the playing time increase, and those are kind of the main guys that we're talking about and looking at, and they get all the minutes. Do I still have? Maybe I don't have the Wisconsin box score brought up, but I mean, those are the guys playing the minutes, not Jorge, and it would seem that he's behind them. He could add a nice element as the 3 or the 4. Maybe he plays the 4 when Guillermo has to play the 5 if Cam Corrin gets in foul trouble, but he's down the list right now and sort of feels like, if you're ordering them 1 through 10, he's probably not ahead. He's definitely not ahead of Austin. He's probably not ahead of Delilich or Cummings either. Tommy asks, is Marlon Barnes going to see any playing time? He's down that list too. I think he's a talented basketball player. He's close to his match point for Pitt here. Rachel Fairbanks serving. Almost an ace. Louisville's got to set it over. We're not doing play-by-play, but that's it. Pitt wins. What a win. What a team. Number 1 team in the country. Clinches a share of the ACC championship. Your Pitt Panthers, number 1 in the country. They just defeated number 3 Louisville on the road. This team is legit. Like, folks, you want to see Pitt win a national championship? This is the team that's going to do it. This is the team that will bring you a national championship. You want a national championship, right? You want Pitt to be the best in the country. They are. They are. They won that final set 25-16. That's not close. And Louisville competed because Louisville is really good too. But Pitt is just that much better. They have some killers on this team. It's killer instinct. And it's what they've had all season long. It's what they've had as many sweeps as they've had. They win this one 3-1. Dominant. Marlon Barnes, to Tommy's question, he's down the list. I think he's a talented basketball player. We'll see how he fits in the future, but I'm not sure he has a huge role this year. Excuse me. Swim Boyd says, why is our quarterback situation so turbulent since Kenny Pickett? Is this bad luck or just how it is? Well, it's kind of how it is. Kenny Pickett was here for 5 years. Kenny Pickett was at Pitt for a long time. And, I think that when you have one guy stick around that long and play as much as he did and start for 4 years, you're going to end up, you're going to have a lot of stability over that stretch. But that's not typical. That's not standard. And so they brought in Keaton Slovis to be a 1-year fill-in, a bridge to whatever was next. They brought in Phil Dracovic to be a 1-year fill-in, a bridge to whatever was next. I think the thought at the time was that Christian Bayer would be next, that there was going to be the Slovis year, the Dracovic year, and then Bayer for a couple of years. Obviously, that didn't work out. But I think right now you're looking at the possibility of some stability at the quarterback spot for maybe the next couple years. Maybe you can get 2 more years out of Eli Holstein, playing at a high level, stabilizing the quarterback position, stabilizing your offense, and maybe leading you to some real success. Guys, it's Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. All right. It's the biggest party night of the year. It's a year where everybody should just feel good. It's a night where everybody should feel good. Like, just allow yourself to imagine an Eli Holstein-led Pitt team for the next 2 years. Like, that's a good thing. They probably win a lot of football games that way. But, of course, Green says the real question is Eli Holstein and Cade Bell going to Oklahoma next year? No, I don't think they are. I don't think they are. Listen, a quick reminder, tonight's episode is sponsored by Chris Gates Fitness and his online fitness training camp. You know Chris by now. He's a huge Pitt fan, longtime supporter of the show, and his training camp membership program is perfect for you if you have health and fitness goals. And what's cool is right now through Monday, Chris is running a massive Black Friday sale where you can get 80% off your first month. Let me tell you a little bit about the program, okay? When you join the training camp, you'll get access to brand new workout programs every month, so you can take all the guesswork out of your exercise plan. You'll also get access to weekly coaching calls with Chris in the private training camp community group, where you can get all your questions answered and receive guided support every step of the way. You also get access to exclusive courses about health and fitness, so you can build your knowledge base and know exactly what to do and when to do it to make progress. And most importantly, you'll join a community full of people there to support you every step of the way, so you never feel alone in your journey. Not to mention, Chris hosts challenges in the group every month to help push you to make progress and develop healthy habits. For instance, training camp members have been doing weekly football pick'em all season, in addition to challenges centered around training and nutrition. And so far, winners have received hundreds of dollars in free supplements, free treadmills and other home gym equipment, and $150 Amazon gift cards. And in December, they're going to be hosting bracket polls for the college football playoff and NFL playoffs, with huge prizes going to the winners. So if you use the code Panther-Lair, Pantherlair, between November 25th and December 2nd, so between now and Monday, sign up for just $10 with the promo code Panther-Lair. That's 80% off the monthly price. So head over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp and learn more and sign up today. Now's a great time to get a head start on your fitness goals for 2025. Let Chris and the training camp community help you navigate the holiday season successfully. All right, let's see. Green says Martin's kettle cooked chips are the best gluten-free snack, and they're made in PA. Yeah, those are good. I love a good kettle cooked chip, and they are good. Swim Boyd says, happy to have 1 hour of Pitt talk every Wednesday night. I'm happy to be here with you. William Richter says Pitt volleyball in set 4, looking like a dub. Yep, they got it. That comment was obviously from a little bit ago. Pitt Tough Guy says, will Pitt or any other program be able to field any semblance of a team in any minor bowl game? Only slightly sarcastic. Yeah, they'll have a team. You're going to have guys who leave. You're going to have guys who are going to the NFL who decide to opt out. You'll have guys who go into the transfer portal in early December, and so they're going to opt out. Obviously they won't even be part of the team anymore. I'm pretty sure. I need to double check this, but I'm pretty sure that the bowl games don't count towards your 4 games that can allow you to redshirt. So you can play in 4 games and still take a redshirt. Excuse me, if you haven't redshirted before. You can play in 4 games in a season. So a true freshman can play in 4 games and still have their red shirt available. You play in 5 games, there goes your red shirt, you're out. A guy like Rodney Hammond, who is trying to redshirt this year, he's played in 4 games. If he plays at Boston College, he can't use his red shirt this year. He'll burn his red shirt. But I'm pretty sure he could play in the bowl game and not burn his red shirt. And so that, I think, helps you. I think that helps you feel the team because you're able to use those freshmen. If you have guys who are right on the cusp of burning their red shirts, and you've lost a bunch of transfers, you can roll the freshmen out there. You can roll guys out there who you were saving because you wanted to redshirt them, and you can use them in the bowl. So I think they'll have a team. And we saw this 2 years ago when Pitt played in the Sun Bowl. They had a bunch of fill-ins. You know what I mean? They had a bunch of guys opt out. Izzy Abanikanda opted out. Haba Baldonado and a bunch of the defensive linemen opted out. Kalijah Cansey didn't play. John Morgan had already transferred. So you have this. I think the safeties, I want to say Brandon Hill opted out, but Eric Hallett played, or maybe it was vice versa. I forget. I think that's what it was. So, you have this. And they had it in the, like I say, they had it that year, and they were still able to field a team. Keaton Slovis had gone in the transfer portal, so Nick Patty played. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, that's part of the whole thing. You're going to be playing with a different kind of roster, which, hey, that's kind of fun because you can see some guys that maybe you didn't see a lot of all year. If the chips fall that Pitt ends up using Sincere Edwards, Francis Brew, and Jasir Whittington in the bowl game a lot more than they have this season, great. I'd like to see those guys. Personally, I think they're going to be very, very good. So, I think that's maybe part of the fun. Let's see. Green says, seems like Pitt has more of an offensive line problem than a quarterback problem this season. Yeah, that's, I mean, I think that's accurate. Like I don't, excuse me. I don't disagree. I mean, the offensive line has been probably a bigger issue than the quarterback play. And that's not to say the quarterback play has been perfect, but the offensive line has been an issue. And that has negatively affected the quarterback play, of course. Your quarterbacks, goodness, excuse me. I got all kinds of stuff going on tonight. Your quarterbacks are going to struggle when they're under pressure all the time. If you can't protect the quarterback, you're not going to have a good time of it. And obviously the offensive line issues create problems in the run game as well, which makes it more difficult on the quarterback because teams, defenses can just tee off. And so, yeah, a lot of it comes back to the offensive line. And I think that's why the offensive line, is a priority for Pitt in the transfer portal this offseason. I think they're going to try to get multiple offensive linemen out of the portal. I think they're going to try to go heavy on offensive linemen. I think it's one of the top priorities. Maybe 2 or 3 of the top priorities are offensive linemen or offensive line positions to try to bring in players to help shore up that group because it struggled this year. I think they have some talented young linemen, but they need to bring in some experienced, talented vets. And so, yeah, you'll see that. And I think because that's a big point of emphasis, because when you look at this team, if you assume a reasonable amount of returning personnel, right, that you're not going to lose all of your best players, they should be pretty well set at a lot of spots. The biggest exceptions are the offensive line and defensive end. I think their tackles will be pretty good. If you bring back Nick James and Sean Fitzsimmons and Francis Brew and Jasir Whittington and Nikai Johnson, I think it'll be pretty good. Defensive end, I have some questions about. Defensive end is going to be a little bit tougher to fill. I like Sincere Edwards a lot. I think Jimmy Scott showed some potential, but you're going to need more transfers there. And so I think defensive end and offensive line are the top priorities. It's the thing those are the spots they need to shore up the most from the portal. And if they do, I think they got a chance to be pretty good. I really think they do. I think they can be a talented team because they got a lot of good pieces they could bring back. Let's see. Rod Mukes says there's no case for Brandon Cummings to start. He's way too small with Jalen and Ish. Excuse me. He's skinny. But I mean, I think he's shown that he's talented. I think he's shown that he can play. I think he's shown that he's going to keep getting better and better and better because he has continued to get better and better and better this season. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of talent there. He didn't necessarily arrive as a fully developed product like Bub Carrington did. I don't know if I would really compare him to Jalen Lowe last year, but he looks like he can play. And I think he looks further along than I expected him to be. So I could make a case for him as a starter just because it allows you to bring an experienced player in Zach Austin off the bench, and it allows you to sub Amsal Delilich in as well. And I think it sort of makes you deeper because you're like, I think Delilich might be a better player than Cummings right now. Might be. And so starting Cummings allows you to bring Delilich in off the bench, which I think could be potent. Michael B is a super chatter. Michael B, we appreciate you showing up, man. I haven't seen you in a long time. Says, I just got here, so I don't know what all you discussed, but here's my 2 questions. Is Panther-Lair definitely coming back next season with the new AD? And also, do you think Pitt Hoops is a Sweet 16 type team? Thanks. My answer to both, Senator. You can have my answer now. Well, the Godfather quote ends there. Because I'm not going to say nothing. No, my answer to both is yes. Yes, Pat Narduzzi's definitely coming back next year if he wants to. If he decides to retire right off into the sunset, that's a different story. But I don't see him getting fired, even if he loses out, which I don't think they'll do. I don't see him getting fired. I don't think the new AD wants to come in, hired mid-season, and make that kind of change. I'm guessing he wants to get the lay of the land, which extends beyond just seeing a 4-game losing streak. I think he wants to get the lay of the land, see how this program is put together, how it's running, and give it at least a year before he makes a drastic change like that. As the Pitt Hoops, I think they're a Sweet 16 team. Yeah. And I'll tell you why, because they have great guards. Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett are great guards. Like the biggest problem with Lowe right now is he's shooting under 30% from 3. But just like Guillermo Diaz-Graham, I don't think he is a sub 30% three-point shooter. I'm fairly confident he is better than a 30% three-point shooter. Same with Guillermo Diaz-Graham. And both of those guys who have taken the most threes on the team, those two, they're at the top of the list. They're both shooting sub 30%. That's not going to continue. Jalen Lowe will finish the season shooting better than 30% from 3. And so will Guillermo Diaz-Graham. And so, but I digress about Lowe and Diaz-Graham and the three-point shooting. Lowe and Leggett are really, really good. Really, really good. And when they get Damian Dunn back in, that's another really good guard. And by the end of the season, Brandon Cummings is going to be playing really good minutes. And Amsal Delilich is going to be playing really good minutes. And if you have good guards, and Pitt will be at a point where it looks like they have like 5, guards who are anywhere on the scale between good up to great, and probably scattered throughout between good and great. If you've got that, you can have a lot of success in March. And I know, Purdue went a long way with Zach Edey and all that stuff, but look, most teams that make big runs, you need great guards, and Pitt has great guards. So as long as that's the case, they're going to have a great chance to win most games they play, and they're going to have a chance to win a bunch of games in March. I think they are a Sweet 16 caliber team. And I'm just talking about the guards. That doesn't even get into what Cam Corrin has brought to the table and what I think Guillermo can do. Like I said, he's not going to finish the season as sub 30% three-point shooter. He's just not. I don't guarantee anything because nothing's guaranteed, but I'm pretty friggin' positive that he is not going to finish the season shooting sub 30% from 3. Him or Jalen Lowe. So if those two get back to the kind of three-point shooting percentage they're capable of, if the guards keep playing at the level they've been playing at, if Cam Corrin keeps doing the things he's been doing, they can get to the second weekend. I don't think there's any question about that. And they can compete in the ACC again, and it'll be fun to watch again. All right, we hit that 9:30 mark. Michael B., thanks for being a super chatter, of course. Listen, guys, don't forget to check out chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp. Use the promo code Panther-Lair to get that huge deal. And, yeah, I think that's about it today. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I know you got a lot of things you could do on the night before Thanksgiving, and I know you're probably watching Pitt volleyball and things like that. And if you're not watching Pitt volleyball, you should start watching Pitt volleyball because it's a lot of fun. Yeah, but I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. Appreciate everybody who watches the morning Pitt episodes. Don't forget, we'll be live after the Pitt Boston College game on Saturday. So we've got that going. That'll be entertaining for sure, win or lose. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com and turn on notifications. That way you will not miss any of our live streams or anything. Josh Newark is chanting Maker's Mark. Dude, I don't even have the bottle down here. It's not here. So it would be a waste of time for me to go up and grab the bottle and the shot glass and come down. We'll save it. We'll have plenty of that on Saturday. So tune in for the post-game show. We'll do shots that day. All right, like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out Panther-Lair.com for all the Pitt sports coverage you can handle. Thanks so much for watching tonight. As always, we'll be back with another. We will have a morning Pitt tomorrow. We'll have a Thanksgiving Day morning Pitt. Don't think we weren't going to. And then, then we'll have one on Friday with the mailbag. Live show after Pitt Boston College on Saturday. So thanks for tuning in. It was a lot of fun as always. Thanks for all the comments and questions. And have a good night. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the morning Pitt right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.